Fox News alert, everyone. Fox can now confirm that the Obama administration is likely to open a criminal investigation into the leaks that revealed widespread government surveillance of millions of Americans' phone calls, their internet activity, and more. Stephen Yates is a former deputy assistant to Vice President Cheney for National Security Affairs, CEO of DC International, and how about this? He spent the first 5 years of his esteemed career at the NSA. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Jamie. Good to be with you.
What about this news that there will be likely a criminal investigation?
It doesn't surprise me that much because the programs involved that were disclosed are highly classified and very compartmented, and so I would expect an aggressive investigation and prosecution of the leak. Problem is this general notion of trust with all things currently in fashion about selective application of the law, selective prosecution of leaks. But this one doesn't surprise me. This is a big disclosure.
Stephen, where do you draw the line between, as the president says, you've got to give up a little privacy to have national security? Where do you draw the line?
To me, that is something that can never be fixed. It's always variable because it depends on the circumstances in which we live. The public's tolerance for forsaking some elements of privacy changes under emergency conditions. And so a lot of the tools and applications that were put in place after 9/11, those were emergency conditions. Those were extraordinary measures. They might not be appropriate to today's world.
National security sources tell me, in explaining this in context, that to a great extent, we've dismantled al-Qaeda. As you've just said, we're not in the immediate post-9/11 era. So what do you make of all this and the information about the leaks? What information was obtained, and was it worth the risk of privacy to average Americans?
Well, I don't think the president has done anywhere near an adequate job in explaining to people why they should be subjected to more sacrifice of their civil liberties, because he has, for all intents and purposes, declared the war on terror over. He also has gone very far in another extreme to apply civil liberties to terrorists who are arrested and given Miranda rights. And so on the one hand, we seem to give exceeding reverence to the liberties of the unlawful, and at the same time, little regard to the civil liberties of the broad public. That's tremendously out of balance.
Given a potential criminal investigation that now we are reporting and have confirmed appears likely, how many people do you think would be involved? How high up would it go in terms of criminal investigation and possible penalties?
Well, my experience when you're dealing with something so sensitive as a broad exception to the laws that govern what a foreign intelligence gathering agency is allowed to do in gathering information on domestic citizens, that it would have to be very high in the leadership. It's one of those exceptions that I believe would have to go all the way to the top of the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States.
At the same time, though, Stephen, understandably, the president would take credit for getting UBL, Osama bin Laden, and there's some reporting that the information obtained may have thwarted a subway attack.
I think that's important. It's also important for all of us to recognize that just because many in our country want to declare a war over, the enemy gets a vote in that, and the terrorist war on us continues whether we like it or not. We do need some of these tougher measures, and it's really incumbent upon the administration to draw a more consistent line for what kind of a threat environment do we have, and then allow the public to make a judgment. There needs to be checks and balances. The post-Vietnam environment and the post-9/11 environment are extreme circumstances that should not be our guide.
Are we safer today as a result of information that's been obtained, in your professional opinion? You've been in this intelligence and national security industry your whole career.
I have no doubt that there have been plots that were thwarted. I have no doubt that some of these expanded measures in the past times did lead to key moves to protect the safety of Americans. But at the same time, technology has exploded and evolved in ways that couldn't have been comprehended 10 years ago. And I think it's time for Congress to be involved to rebalance what's allowed and what's appropriate.
Very interesting. Stephen Yates, we always learn so much when you join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie.